Thank you for tuning in to this video blog. I want to reassure you, first of all, that I strenuously oppose and will vote against the Senate amnesty bill that just passed. It will never pass the House. A vast majority of House Republicans oppose amnesty, as I do, for illegal aliens. 90% of the problems our nation faces would be solved if we would simply enforce existing law. We don't need any new laws on the books. Frankly, we need to repeal a whole bunch of them. I think you could close most of the termite mounds in Washington, D.C., and no one would really miss them. Taxpayers would save a lot of money, and we'd save a lot of time and aggravation in our business and personal lives. But in particular, on illegal immigration, you just need to secure the border by enforcing existing law. You don't need more Border Patrol agents. You need more marshals, more judges, more prosecutors, more administrative personnel, and more detention beds. And you need the officers we have to use as we expect them on the streets of Houston, to use their common sense and their good hearts to distinguish between a woman and children coming across the border and put them back, whereas an economic migrant or someone who's smuggling drugs or weapons coming to the country to hurt us, those are the ones you need to enforce existing law with. First offense, been on the books since the 50s, is 6 months in jail for crossing the border illegally. Second offense for crossing the border illegally is up to 2 years in jail. Now, that law is not being enforced anywhere except in the Del Rio sector and in portions of the Laredo sector, in the Yuma sector in Arizona, and then in part in the El Paso sector. I attempted to send more money to the southwest border to hire more marshals and judges and prosecutors, etc., but was told that was an earmark and I couldn't do it. That's for another video blog another day, but we need to fix that and allow Congress to designate where our hard-earned tax dollars can be spent by partially restoring that earmark, our ability to do earmarks, because that's what you hired us to do, is to use our good judgment to solve big problems. You trust us on the big problems, you can trust us on the smaller ones. But when it comes to illegal immigration, securing the border is not complicated. It's already being done simply by enforcing existing law. And then number two, you've got to create a guest worker program so people can work here legally and not get access to citizenship. They're only here to work in a specific industry for a specific period of time, so they can come and go across the border freely. They can't bring their family. They can't get access to government welfare programs because they're just here to work and go home. Now, that is something they had in the 50s called the Bracero program, and that's what needs to be done here as a part of immigration reform. And then finally, you've got to fix two other things. The visa system, so it's easier to come here legally than it is illegally. And then finally, you've also got to make sure that employers have easy access to the E-Verify system. So if they hire somebody and they submit their name to a national database and do their due diligence, then the employer is protected against either penalties or lawsuits or litigation. That employer is given what's called a safe harbor, protection against the government coming after them. Those are fundamental common sense principles that I strongly support, that conservative Republicans in the House support. Secure the border with existing law, create a guest worker program where people can come here to work only without a path to citizenship, and of course they can't bring their whole families, and they cannot get on government welfare programs, and then fix the visa system so it's easier to come here legally than illegally, and then finally create expand the existing E-Verify system so that employers can check whether or not the person they're hiring is here legally or not, and then they're given protection against liability from the government once they hire somebody. These are common sense reforms that we in Texas understand. We know in Texas better than any other state how important our relationship is with Mexico, but it requires for people to come back and across the border legally. It requires a secure border where the laws are enforced. And I'm committed to do so, and I assure you I'll continue to oppose this amnesty bill the Senate passed, and I'll always represent you with honor and integrity as a principled, free market, 10th Amendment conservative who's dedicated to keep the government out of your lives and out of your pocket and to let Texans run Texas. Thank you for hiring me to represent you.